Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part 2 of code review of movie ratings for Netflix Flutter application. To remind you, this application is a really cool application that shows basically some overlay over Netflix and several other applications, and in that overlay you can see the average rating of the movie or the show you are looking at. And I was really surprised that Netflix and other streaming services do not provide this information to their users. So if you are using one of these apps, then I'm sure that Flutter will be very handy for you, because knowing the rating of the show you are considering to watch is really important. Flutter movie ratings application was written by Jay Rambia, and its source code is readily available on GitHub. So me and you, all of us, can read the code and follow along, and it's really cool. Thumbs up, Jay. Now, if you haven't watched the first part of this code review yet, then I recommend that you do it now before proceeding with the second part, because you need that context. However, just to remind you, I spent most of the first part of code review reviewing this one, Bubble service, and I thought that it's the main component of this application, while in practice it's kind of not very important component, and the service is only used when you customize the look of the bubble on the screen. So probably the main takeaway from the first part is that naming is really important. You just need to think about the names of your entities, and maybe even think about other developers that might read your code in the future and help them understand that, for example, this bubble service should be called bubble customization service, because that's what it's used for. And this Netflix reader service, which is the main service, the main component of this application, it probably should be named something along the lines of reader and displayer service, or main service, just to let the people who will read this application know that this is the main service, this is the main component of this application. And this name, Netflix reader, implies that it's for Netflix and it reads, while in practice it does much more than that, and this will be the main scope of the second part. I'm going to review this Netflix reader service. So without further ado, let's start. Now I remind you that this Netflix reader service is accessibility service, so it receives accessibility events, and that will be probably the main entry point into this service. However, let's just scroll down the code and read along. Alright, so in onCreate, Jay basically initializes some map that contains, as far as I can say, these are the names of the applications that this application supports. So it can help you with Netflix, Prime Video, and Hotstar, and BBC Player, and Play Movies, Geo Cinema, Geo TV, YouTube, Redbox, and that's Flutter Test Reader. It's probably something internal to this application. And then we have this displayer object, and this displayer object is the one that actually displays the bubble. And then we have this schedule, which will be used for Rx stuff. But why? Okay, it's strange, because Jay initializes here a new schedule from MyLooper, but if I'm not mistaken, there is no situation where onCreate of a service is called on any thread other than UI thread. So probably this is just equal to get UI scheduler, and that's it. And then we start with a lot of Rx Java stuff. Let's try to understand what it does. So we have request publisher, and do on next some logging, and then debounce 60 milliseconds, and then get movie info after debounce. Okay, and basically what happens here is that we subscribe and we get movie info, and on error we print the stack trace. I can't understand all of that right now, but we will get back to it when I've got a little bit more context. And we have something called history publisher, which is debounced for 1 second, and then it says update history. And in onDestroy, Jay basically sends on complete events to both of these publishers. Alright, init resources. And here we have synchronization stuff. So probably some kind of multi-threading is involved indeed here. Where is this method called from? From get movie info. And get movie info is called only from here. We've been here right now. So request publisher. And it observes on my scheduler, but my scheduler is on UI thread. So get movie info will be called on UI thread, and init resources will be called on UI thread. So the need for this synchronization is questionable. Let's see other places where synchronization is used. Okay, so we have init resources that uses synchronization, and clear resources that uses synchronization. And clear resources will be called from resource remover. So in init resources, we create this resource remover, and it's also published subject. And we say that after resource threshold, after basically 300 seconds, it clears resources. And then immediately I see that it's called. So basically what it does, I'm not very good with Rx Java, but as far as I understand, this thing is invoked here, and then it waits for 300 seconds, and then it calls clear resources. And all of that happens in init resources. So basically 300 seconds after the resources are initialized, they are cleared. Why would someone want to do that? And let's see what we've got here. We got some speaker and provider history keeper, and then we call system garbage collection. Okay, this one is for sure, I can tell you that you don't need that. Like, I mean, probably never. I think it's safe to say that you never need to call garbage collection manually. Well, I guess like probably there are some like really special circumstances where you would like to invoke manual garbage collection, but I don't see any reason to do that here. And let's understand why we want to release these resources after 300 seconds. So this init resources is called only here get movie info, and get movie info called when request publisher is invoked. So what we need to find basically is where is on next of the request publisher is called. On completed on next here. All right. And this is set movie title method. And set movie title is called from on accessibility event. So accessibility event is the main entry point into this Netflix reader service. When accessibility event happens, it will be received here in this method. And then J does a bunch of stuff which is not very important at this point, until at some time it comes to these titles, first or now and then for each one we call like set movie title. And set movie title calls to this on next, which triggers resource allocation, and after 300 seconds these resources are disposed of. And I really don't see any reason for this indirection and complication. Now I might be wrong, I don't understand really the requirements of this application, you know, I'm reviewing this code on the fly, but my gut feeling, and that might be like my, you know, confirmation bias kicking in, because I don't use Rx in any of my projects, and I recommend to avoid Rx in general, because on the paper it might look good, and when you see Rx being presented on conferences, it's always like comes with some very handy example that shows how it's great and how it removes a lot of boilerplate or something like that. But in real code, in production code that I see and review, I don't see Rx being beneficial. I do get a feeling that in most cases it's like, you know, this like instrument law. When you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So in this case, it feels the same. I don't see reason for all this complication. What this service needs to do is basically go to this on accessibility event, and when accessibility event happens, we perform some check, supported packages. So we basically want to check that accessibility event came from application that we support, as far as I can understand. And then we do some another checks, and blah 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 blah. And then we like say, okay, now we want to read titles and we want to read year of the movie, and then we want to set title, right? And we want to set year, and then basically set movie title, and then basically we want to display it. We want to send it to our bubble that is displayed on the screen. And all of that is done with some kind of Rx stuff and background processing, and it's really hard to understand whether any thread except UI is involved in all this process. And I got distinct feeling that all of that is running on UI thread and there are no more threads here. Sorry for being so harsh, but my stance about RxJava is quite harsh. I don't use it myself, I repeat, and I don't recommend anyone using it. In all the code bases, all the production code bases that I've seen, RxJava is being abused. Now, I know for sure that there are very good developers who use it and who manage to get the best out of it, but it's like too complex, and it's always tempting developers to make their code much more complex than it needs to be. And really, in this case, I feel like you could rewrite this functionality, this service, in like half lines of codes and quarter of its complexity. So you get accessibility event, you initialize all the resources that you need, or maybe you even can initialize all these resources in onCreate. Why would you want to spare these resources? Maybe only the speaker, I don't know what speaker does, but maybe the speaker, if it's has something to do with like media player or exo player, then you need to release this resource at some point. But if it's not text to speech, okay, so speaker probably can like maybe say aloud the names of the movies. Okay, talk, rating, talk. So the function talk, what it does, text to speech, speak. Okay, I've never worked with text to speech myself, so I don't know if you need to like release this resource or not. But anyway, even if you do need to release it at some point, what you can do, Jay, is basically allocate it somewhere here, or maybe after you do your initial checks, like here, you initialize your text to speech, and then you register some kind of a listener for it. Probably if it speaks, then it should have some kind of on talk completed listener, and then you release the reader. Yeah, you release the reader there, and you don't really need all this complication with RxJava and 300 seconds timeout and all these nullability checks. Most of it, in my estimation, can be simply removed. It looks like you don't need this synchronization as well. And sorry Rx lovers out there, and I probably get a lot of heat for my opinions, but I've never seen a production codebase where RxJava was used properly. And in my estimation, you don't need RxJava unless you have real stream of events and you need to handle back pressure. Okay, so in these situations, if you get like, I don't know, you interface to some hardware device. Once I developed an application that interfaced over Bluetooth to hardware device, and this device basically sent me stream of events. So I implemented back pressure strategy myself, and it was like difficult and it contained a lot of bugs. Eventually it worked, but I guess I could spare some time and effort if I just switched to RxJava, but I was kind of new to Android development and I didn't know about RxJava. So unless you have real stream of events and you really need to handle back pressure, you don't need RxJava. Now, it might be that in this application with this on accessibility event stuff, maybe there's some kind of back pressure here, but I highly doubt it. So probably all this Rx stuff can be simply removed and this application will be much more readable and the code will be shorter and everything will be much more simple to debug, to understand, to maintain. Okay, now let's basically review this on accessibility event method line by line because it's the main entry point into the application. So this one, as I said, that's probably just checking that the application that sent the event is supported by Flutter movie rating. And then we say that if event type is Windows state changed, then we remove the view and we set the title to null. Okay. And then basically J initializes this isAppEnabled to, if it's application ID, if it's self-application ID of this specific app, then it's true, else we go to preferences and see if app enabled. So probably there is some screen, configuration screen, where the user can choose which applications out of the entire list of apps that I've read at the beginning of this video, which of these apps should be supported, should be enabled. And probably users can disable some apps, and if app is not enabled, then basically the bubble isn't shown. And then, okay, we get a reader, and if the reader is not null, again, like too many null checks. Okay, even if you write code in Java, you know, like all these null checks, these are code smells. You shouldn't have this many null checks. 1, 2, 3 null checks per class. Okay, I get it. But you know, like having like, I don't know, 5, 6 null checks per one method in one method is like way too much even for Java, and surely for Kotlin, which boasts no need to check for nullability, everything is null safe. Now it's totally not true. You still need to handle nullability in Kotlin, and just the semantics changes. But again, too many null checks, probably cat smell. You can simplify, you can probably get rid of most of them, because like you need to know that, you know, if you got past this point, you know, like you checked this one and you checked this one, then you should be pretty confident that when you make this call, the reader won't be null at this point. So if reader is not null, J reads the title and the year of the show or the movie, and then debug, not interesting, some debugging stuff. And then basically for the title, if it's not null, then we set movie title. Now, this is not very good practice, you know. When you call a method, you should pass just some parameters into that method. And you shouldn't put like this kind of logic, and surely not this kind of logic, into method list. If you want to do that, you know, either put it before you call the method and initialize some helper variable to let the reader know what this thing is, or even better, extract it into a standalone method and give it a name. Now, here is like, okay, fixed title. I don't know what it does, but I understand that it will return the same title, but fixed. Here I don't know. I need to actually read and understand all that, and it's like Kotlin syntax, and it's very difficult to read, and like question marks all over the place. Please help me. Define helper variable, call it some sensible name, what it's used for, and then put this code in it, or even better, put it inside a function. Okay, else, what this else is related to? If reader is not null. So if reader is not null, we are doing that, and if reader is null, and I just say that reader shouldn't be null if you came all that way to here, then we do check node recursively. What's that? If not debug, okay, so this is probably some kind of debug code. Maybe I was too quick with the conclusions. So the reason for this non-null check is for J to be able to debug issues when they arise. And this practice is called defensive programming. Defensive programming is basically when you add special checks, you add special code that handles exceptional conditions and help you understand or mitigate the outcomes of these special conditions. In this case, J basically says, okay, I expect this reader not to be null, but if it is null, then please like help me understand what happened here, and then maybe I can better debug this thing. To be honest, I'm still not sure that it's needed. Or maybe he had some problems when he developed this application, so he wrote this helper, but then he resolved the problem and kept this code just in case the problem returns. But in my estimation, it probably can be removed. So that's what this application does. Waits for accessibility events, goes and checks that the application is supported, and then reads some data from the supported application and shows this data in the bubble. So this displayer basically shows the bubble. So we do remove view, and then we do some kind of and then we use request publisher on next. And this request publisher, basically when we do on next, this get movie info is invoked, and it initializes resources and use Flutter API, basically checks if the Flutter API should be used or otherwise what, I don't know. But you know, the provider, get movie ratings, and again RxJava stuff. Now here it's use scheduler IO, which is like a background thread, and here we use Android scheduler's main thread. And my scheduler, okay, my scheduler is not Vasily's scheduler, but it's like there was some here. Okay, so my scheduler, this one, okay, it was initialized to my looper. So basically my scheduler is equivalent to this Android scheduler's main thread, and it can be removed altogether, in my estimation. Again, I might be wrong on that. And then we filter the events, so we don't want empty IDMB IDs. And and on success we do show rating, and show rating is basically using this displayer object to show the bubble. And after we show the bubble, we go like if TTS is text to speech, we've seen that already. If it's enabled and use TTS, then we go speaker talk. So it's really cool feature because the bubble is really small and some users might have a hard time seeing it. You know, like there are people who have like non-perfect vision, and for these people this feature can be really handy. So like Jay, like thumbs up. That's like going an extra mile for your users. I really like that. There's probably more stuff in this like Netflix reader service than we've discussed so far, but I think that's enough. It's really cool application, really cool service. I really like the idea behind this application, and the implementation is quite clean. I must say that even though I gave a lot of feedbacks, negative feedbacks, I think this application is actually a good code, really decent code. What will make it better, much better in my estimation, is removing RxJava stuff. Or if you like RxJava and you use RxJava, and for example here, where was it? You know, it was used for, okay, here it was used for multi-threading, so we do something on IO thread and then we get the notification on main thread, and it's not hard to do without Rx. All you Rx fans out there, you can do it without Rx in several lines of code. It's not hard, but if you like it, you can use it, but don't abuse it. Don't use it everywhere just because you can use it. Rx is very special stuff. It has its use cases. In my estimation, all of them are related to real streams and real back pressure. But even if you want to do this kind of stuff, like going on network, okay, do that. But all other usages of Rx in this class are suspicious in my estimation. I think you can get rid of them and make your code much simpler and even shorter. So hope you enjoyed this code review, and if you are Rx fan, then you are going to dislike it, but otherwise, if it was useful and you'll learn something new, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you disagree with me, if you think I made a mistake, then please comment on this video and let me know and let's discuss it. I really like learning about my mistakes, and especially in these videos that many people will potentially see. If you find a mistake, just point it out and I will make sure to fix it, or at least let the viewers know that, you know, like it was a mistake. I said some stupid thing and I admit that I said some stupid thing. So thank you for watching, and if you use some streaming service, one of the supported ones in this application, you've seen the list, right? And if you use it, then go ahead, download Flutter, use it, try it, and rate it 5 stars, because Jay made an amazing work, and it even has text-to-speech for people who find it difficult to read text off screen. It's like really cool, going extra mile for your users. I am rating this 5-star application. Thanks everybody, till next time, goodbye.